Sawadee! Hello everyone! So welcome to our subject, and for today we are about to continue our discussion about adjusting entries, and now we are going to tackle depreciation. Okay, so this is your instructor, Noel Bergonya. So just sit back, relax, take down notes, and if you do have questions, please let me know in our respective chat boxes, or even you can comment on this video lecture. Okay, so I think we can now start with our discussion about depreciation. So this depreciation, no, you might have heard it already in some of our discussions in the previous module. Okay, but this is typically applicable for the long-term assets, okay, which we have already discussed and introduced way back module number 1. Okay, so let's define first what depreciation is. So when we talk about depreciation, it is an accounting process of allocating the costs of tangible assets. So pag sinabi po nating tangible assets, these are some assets that can be held, okay, or pwede pong hawakan. Kasi there are also other assets, what we so-called intangible assets, that they do not have any physical substance at all. No? So when we talk about tangible assets in this particular context for depreciation, this actually refers to what we so-called property, plant, and equipment. So yung property, plant, and equipment, example of which are, let's say, buildings, machineries, equipment, furnitures and fixtures, and vehicles. But there are also others, no, that could be part of the property, plant, and equipment specifically na used in the business, and they take long time, no, to be used in the business. Okay? So by the way, kung mapapansin po ninyo, wala po sa listahan yung land. Okay, so land is not part of this discussion about depreciation. Why? Because land is not subject to depreciation, but rather it is subject for somehow appreciation. Okay? Parang love lang eh, no? But anyway, so ayun, no? Hindi po kasama dito sa discussion natin yung land. So these are only all of the assets that are used for long-term period, no? That are considered as depreciable except land. Okay, so going back with our definition, we allocate yung costs ng ating tangible assets, specifically the property, plant, and equipment, okay, to expense in a systematic and rational manner to those periods expected to benefit from the use of the asset. So 'di ba bibilhin natin itong machinery, buildings, equipment, and the likes, no? Binibili natin 'yan. So by how much have we recorded it in our time na binili natin? So that's the cost, 'di ba? Tapos of course, there are various reasons which we will also be mentioning later, no, why we need to put that into expense. Okay? So sige nga, what are the reasons why we are typically recognizing depreciation for these tangible assets? So here are the reasons, no? So it could be either we have used it. Okay, so di ba, if you have remembered based on the definition in accrual basis of accounting, okay, which is one of our bases in the reason or reason, no, why we have adjusting entries, no, we will recognize expense once it is incurred. So pag sinabi incurred, it means it was being used. So yun, no, once we use this property, plant, and equipment, okay, then we need to allocate already kung ano man yung cost nun over the period, no, and we will recognize that as an expense. Okay, so that's one reason, usage. Another would be physical wear and tear. So yung tangible assets natin, once we are using it, of course, di ba, parang syempre, part of it is already being used or all of it was being used. And then syempre, pwedeng nasisira rin o kaya naman there is a part of it na sadyang nagkakaroon ng physical wear and tear, then that could be a reason why we are recognizing expense. And also, as time goes by, di ba, naluluma yung tangible assets, then we need also to recognize an expense related to that. Okay, so that's the reason. Okay, so those are just some of the reasons why we need to recognize depreciation, which is the allocation of our costs to expense, no, in a systematic and rational manner because we are benefiting from the use of this asset. So parang ano rin, in the context of matching principle, if you have remembered, di ba? So syempre, nagbe-benefit tayo, kumikita tayo mula sa paggamit nitong property, plant, and equipment. And of course, the part of it that we have used, no, in having this income, okay, or benefit from that asset, no, needs to be recognized as expense. Diba? We need to match the expense over the income or the benefit that we received. Okay? So I hope na naintindihan natin yung basis. Why do we depreciate and why are we recognizing expenses, no, related to this depreciation. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. All right. So this particular depreciation, no, needs to consider this particular elements. Okay, so importante sa pag-compute ng ating depreciation or depreciation expense, itong mga items na to. So tignan natin ano ba yung mga items that would be used in computing our depreciation. First of which is yung tinatawag po natin na depreciable costs or depreciable base of the asset. Okay, so ano ba itong depreciable costs or depreciable base ng asset? It is the function of two items. Una, yung costs. So kanina in the definition, we have mentioned the costs. So of course, if you bought the asset, then the purchase price would be the costs. Okay, the purchase price. Now, please take note that the purchase price should be net of any discount. Okay? Just in case, di ba, pwede kasing yung ating binibili mga property, plant, and equipment, may mga discount. So, dapat net of discount na po yung ating costs ng property, plant, and equipment. And also, if ever man na meron tarong tinatawag na directly attributable costs, okay? So, ano po yung directly attributable costs? These are costs, wait lang attributable costs, ayan. Directly attributable costs are costs that are being incurred, no, to bring this asset into its current location. Okay, ulitin ko, no? Directly attributable costs are costs that have been incurred to bring the asset to its current location and to its use. Okay, so typically kasi nung nag-discuss tayo ng module number 1, 2, and 3, no, we have mentioned lang doon, okay, ito yung binili natin na machine, ito yung cost ng binili natin na equipment, so binigay na sa atin, no? But in the future, once you will discuss thoroughly kung saan manggagaling yung costs ng isang property, plant, and equipment, and actually this will be covered by International Accounting Standard number 16. Okay, yan po yung accounting standard for property, plant, and equipment, no? So babanggitin doon na aside from the purchase price, no, if there would be directly attributable costs, then kailangan nating i-add yon. Ano po yung mga example ng directly attributable costs? So it could be either installation costs. 'Di ba? Pag tayo bumili ng, let's say, machinery, hindi naman natin magagamit yun agad without installing it. So ayan, isang example yun ng directly attributable cost. So pag sinabi sa problem, halimbawa, itong binili natin na equipment is 500,000. So yun yung purchase price. Tapos gumastos siya ng pang-install, halimbawa 10,000, edi ang cost na ng ating property, plant, and equipment is already 510,000. So yung purchase price at saka yung installation costs. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Another example ng directly attributable cost is yung tinatawag natin na delivery costs. Okay, or handling fee. So syempre, 'di ba, halimbawa nanggaling yan sa ibang lugar, tapos you need to deliver it to your area or to your plant, no? So ayan, yung delivery charge is sasama rin natin sa cost. Okay, kasi we cannot use it without putting it in where it should be. Okay, and many more, no? Our focus just right now is to give you the cost, pero if you want to know more about the cost of property, plant, and equipment, which was being discussed under International Accounting Standard number 16, you can visit my video lecture about it. No, I will be putting in the in the description column of this video lecture yung video lecture about the cost of property, plant, and equipment. It's more detailed, which we are using in college discussion. Okay? So I hope nasundan natin. So the first element of our depreciation is the depreciable cost, which include the first one, costs. Okay? Another that we need also to consider once we are computing the depreciable cost is yung tinatawag po natin na salvage value, scrap value, residual value, or the disposal value. Ano po ba to? Ano ba tong scrap value, residual value, or disposal value? Pare-parehas lang po sila, no? So that is a terminology used, no, for the expected amount na matitira doon sa asset, no, at the end of its useful life. Okay? Sir, bakit kailangan na natin alamin kung magkano siya matitira at the end of the useful life? That's because of the fact that, again, once we depreciate this asset, no, dapat at the end of its useful life, yun po yung matitirang value sa kanya. Okay? Because we are estimating, ito ba ay may halaga pa or wala na at the end. So sometimes it would be given in our problem, but in reality, of course, the company will estimate, no? I-estimate nila yan ay, halimbawa, itong binili natin na building, no? After, let's say, 20 years, magkano kaya magiging value nito? Okay? Or even the equipment, after 5 years natin gamitin, no? Ilan magkano ba? Okay, so they are estimating it based on the company's and management's discretion. Okay, and also applying some sort of other standards in determining the estimates. Now, sir, possible po ba na pag wala kami nakita sa problem na scrap value, salvage, residual, or disposal, wala po siyang ganon? Yes. No? If you haven't seen this in the problems that I will be giving you, okay, ang assumption natin is 0 lang po yan. Okay, pero pag merong sinabi doon na, hey, it is the residual value, then consider that. Okay, so that's the function of our depreciable costs or depreciable base of the asset. Yung costs at saka salvage or scrap value. Actually, class, yung depreciable cost, ang formula niyan ay ito. Your asset costs, okay? So yung cost ng asset natin minus your salvage value. Okay, so just in case baka matanong na agad sa inyo, how much is the depreciable cost or the depreciable base? So that's the costs less the scrap value, salvage value, residual value, or the disposal value. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. So that's the first set of elements now that we need for our depreciation, your depreciable costs. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Again, if you do have questions, just please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay, so another element that we need is yung tinatawag po natin na useful life or service life of the asset. So what does this service life or useful life means? So this refers to the amount, okay, the amount of use, sorry, it is the amount of use that we expect. Wait lang. Ayan. So it is an amount of time that the company expect to obtain from the asset before disposing it. So ito po yung time, no? Kung gaano katagal natin magagamit yung isang asset. So nabanggit ko na to kanina, no, at the end of the useful life. So it would be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, depending upon the company's estimate again kung gaano tatagal yung particular asset na yon. Okay, so usually property, plant, and equipment will have a useful life of more than 1 year. Okay, more than 1 year siya kasi long-term asset niya ito. And sometimes as well, this use or this time can be expressed, okay, in units of time or units of activity. Okay, so ayun, it could be units of activity, pero ngayon kasi in our discussion we will just be focusing on time, no? Pero there are other methods in depreciating that we will be using units as the basis for our useful life, no? So pero for this time, no, in your basic accounting, no, what we will just be using is yung time-based depreciation methods. Okay, so ayun, ganun ka detailed yung isang company, no? They need to estimate on how long will this asset be used. So possible ba na pag in-estimate nila halimbawa 5 years, pwedeng after certain period of time, pwede pang mabago yon. Yes, no? Pwede naman mabago yung estimate kasi estimate nga lang po siya. But of course, once you have estimated and nagbago po yon, then we need to account for the changes. Don't worry, we will not account for changes here. We will just have a default useful life muna for the meantime. But as you proceed in your higher accounting subjects in the future, no? Pag kayo nag-take ng accounting related courses, then you will discuss there your change in accounting estimates. Okay, so that's the second element, not the useful life or service life. And last is yung depreciation method. So the objective is to try to allocate yung ating costs or the depreciable costs in the proportional in proportion to its benefits generated by the assets during the period over its total benefits provided by the assets. So we need to identify a specific method or depreciation method that will be used by that particular business or company. Okay, so actually marami pong depreciation methods. I will share that with you later, no? But for this type of discussion lang natin in your fundamentals of accountancy, business, and management, we will just be discussing one method lang, which is the basic method. Okay? You will be discussing the more complicated methods, no, pag kayo po ay nasa higher accounting na. Okay? So yan po yung tatlong elements na kailangan natin. Depreciable costs, which includes the cost less the salvage value or scrap value, residual or disposal value. Next element was the useful life or the service life, the length of time, okay, or even in units, no, that this particular assets will be used. And then the depreciation method is the way how do we allocate this costs over the useful life. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. So later, babalikan natin itong mga elements na to and let's try to answer some of our prepared problems, no, on the succeeding slides. All right. So after knowing the elements that would be used in computing the depreciation, the next question that we need to answer is, kailan ba nagsisimula yung depreciation? Okay? At kailan natitigil yung pag-recognize ng depreciation? So this is based on IAS number 16, okay, which is, again, the accounting standard for property, plant, and equipment. So our depreciation will begin or start, okay, when it is available for use. Okay? So hindi porket binili natin siya, automatically it will start the depreciation already. Take note that it will only begin the depreciation once it is available for use. So example, no, when it is already in the location kung saan siya dapat gamitin. Baka naman mamaya, halimbawa, binili natin siya ng December 22. Okay, December 22. Pero binili pa lang yon, binayaran natin siya, pero nagamit natin siya starting January 1 pa the following year. So kailan magsisimula ang depreciation? It's not the time when you bought it, but it's the time when it is already available for use. Kung na-deliver siya, nandun na siya sa current location, na-install na siya, okay, nagawa mo na yung necessary actions or conditions, no, that will held this asset to be capable of operating already intended by the management. Okay? Pero in some of our problems, no, hindi na nabanggit kung kailan available for use. So sometimes the date of purchase can be allowed to be used as the starting point, no? Pero pag binigyan kayo ng various dates, ito yung date kung kailan binili, ito yung date kung kailan po available siya for use, then you will start when it is available for use pa lang. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. So dyan po nagsisimula yung ating depreciation, no? So when it is already available for use. Now, kailan naman natatapos yung depreciation? So the depreciation of the asset ceases, no, at the early of. Okay? So ito yung mga reasons kung kailan nagtatapos yung depreciation ng assets. Okay? So first is at the date that the asset is classified as held for sale in accordance with IFRS number 5. So pagpasensya niyo na, I have included here some standards, no? Itong IFRS 5, it is the International Financial Reporting Standard number 5. And actually, this is entitled Non-Current Assets Held for Sale and Discontinued Operations. Okay, don't worry, we will not be discussing it thoroughly since this is one topic, no, in intermediate accounting. But ayun, ang point lang nito, no, natatapos ang depreciation at the early years, so mas maaga, either you have classified it as held for sale. Pag sinabi nating held for sale, there is already a high chance, no, or there is a high probability, okay, na ibibenta natin yung particular na asset. Okay, kaya nga siya held for sale. So if your intention is to sell it within the next 12 months, then tapos na po yung ating depreciation once you have classified it as held for sale. Okay, so there will be a video lecture about this non-current assets held for sale, but again, I'm not expecting you to know it muna at this early since you are in the fundamentals of accountancy, business, and management pa lang naman. Okay, so pero ayun, no? That's the first one. And another is if you have derecognized the asset. Okay? So ano pong ibig sabihin ng derecognize? Pag sinabing derecognize, it's either you have sold it already, no? Binenta mo na, kaya wala na sa iyo yung asset, so dapat wala na tayong depreciation. Or syempre aside from that, pwede naman na hindi mo binenta pero fully used na siya, or yung tinatawag natin na fully depreciated. Okay, na-depreciate mo na tapos na yung useful life niya, tapos hindi mo na rin ginagamit, o kaya naman i-dispose mo na, ibibenta, aside from benta, no, itatapon mo na kasi wala na siyang halaga sa iyo. Pero ayun, no, so that's when we also stop the depreciation. Okay, so again, depreciation will stop or cease at the early. So either alin yung mas maaga mong ginawa, classified mo siya as held for sale, or dinirecognize mo siya. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Pero kung wala naman kayo nakitang sinabi sa problem na held for sale siya or derecognize siya, then tuloy nyo lang yung depreciation niya for as long as there is still an amount that we can depreciate. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. And lastly on this slide, no, sir, are there chances na hindi pa po natatapos yung depreciation? Yes, no. Ang sabi dito, no, depreciation does not cease or hindi siya natatapos when the assets become idle or is retired from active use unless it is fully depreciated. So, hindi po magtatapos yung depreciation if it is idle. So meaning, yung parang ano lang, tinabi mo lang siya, hindi mo naman ginamit. Kaya siya idle, no? Hindi mo siya ginamit, okay? Hindi siya used in the production, so you haven't benefited from it, okay? So hindi po natatapos dun yung depreciation. Because remember in our previous slides discussion, di ba? Aside from the usage, there would be a passage of time. Di ba? So as part of it, no, even though hindi mo ginagamit, okay, pero tumatakbo yung oras until its useful life, then you need to still depreciate it. Or even pag retire mo siya from active use, so ganun din, no? Idle siya pero hindi pa siya fully depreciated, then you can still continue its depreciation. Okay? Ayun lang, no? So that's your clues when to start depreciation, when to stop depreciation, and what are some of the premises why we do not stop the depreciation. Okay? So that's for our basic premises about depreciation. So I hope that you can still follow. Again, if you do have questions, just please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay? Sige. So the next part of this discussion is introducing you, no, what will be the journal entry. Okay, ito na po yung ating focus sa adjusting entry, no, about depreciation. So the journal entry, no, for once we recognize depreciation, the passage of time, no, at the end of the reporting period, or once we have used it already in one particular period, ano po yung journal entry natin? Remember class that the adjusting entry will be prepared when? Very good. It needs to be prepared at the end of the reporting period. Okay? At the end of the reporting period. So it could be the end of the month, it could be the end of the year, or end of the quarter, or whatever is the reporting period. Okay? So ang entry natin is ito, no? So we will be debiting depreciation expense. Okay? So debit depreciation expense. So ano ba tong depreciation expense na to? That is referring to, of course, an expense, which is the portion of the asset costs that is allocated to an expense in the current year. So remember, di ba, what's the reason why we are recognizing expense once it is used? Okay, or expired, di ba? So basically, the reason kanina why we recognize depreciation is because there is a passage of time, there is a usage of this PPE, or there is what we so called um, physical wear and tear. So ayan, no, we are recognizing expense or depreciation expense specifically because we are allocating the expense, the usage for a particular period. Okay? So normal balance yan is debit, no? And aside from that, we will be crediting yung tinatawag natin accumulated depreciation. O hindi to accumulated depression class, accumulated depreciation. So this is a new account title that you will encounter. Okay, and normal balance yan is credit. So ano po ba tong accumulated depreciation na yan? So that account is referring to another contra asset account. So kung naalala ninyo in our previous video lecture no about the uncollectible accounts, ang ating unang contra asset account, ang kinokontra nun is accounts receivable ay yung allowance, di ba? Under allowance method, we have the allowance for doubtful accounts, allowance for bad debts or uncollectible accounts. So ito yung pinakaunang contra account at ang kinokontra niya is receivable. Okay? So ngayon, may encounter na natin yung pangalawa, which is accumulated depreciation, pero ang kinokontra niya of course is yung property, plant, and equipment. So it's a contra property, plant, and equipment. Ito na po yung pangalawa natin na contra account. So I hope nasusundan ninyo, no? Ano ba tong account na to? No? So this is representing the cumulative amount of the asset costs that have been depreciated in all prior years including the current year. So 'di ba pag tayo ay gumagamit ng asset, we are putting it as part of our depreciation expense. So yung accumulated, from the word itself, accumulated, no? The pinagpatong-patong lahat po ng mga previous na depreciation expense, no? It is accumulated here in this account. So why is there a need for us to accumulate that depreciation? It's because once we report it, mamaya sa susunod na slide, I will show you the way how we will present it in our financial statement, no? Kailangan natin mapakita na ay ito na pala yung totality nung lahat ng ni-recognize natin or transfer natin na expense over the period of time. Okay? So again, this represents the cumulative amount of the depreciation natin. Since ito ay contra property, plant, and equipment account, just like allowance, ang normal balance po nito ay credit. Okay? Normal balance nan ay credit. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Sir, sa lahat ng depreciation entry, ito po yung ating palaging entry? Yes. No? So sa lahat ng inyong depreciation, once you recognize it in the end of the reporting period, no, ang entry nyo talaga for depreciation is debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. So ano lang yan, ang concern natin is yung kung magkano ba ang ilalagay natin as expense and accumulated depreciation in our adjusting entry. Okay, which is yun yung i-discuss natin sa susunod na slide. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay, so after knowing the journal entry, no, for our depreciation, which is debit to depreciation expense and credit accumulated depreciation, let's now show naman how this amounts be presented in your financial statements. Okay, so for our property, plant, and equipment, di ba asset po yun? Okay, so this is an asset. Okay, at ang makikita nyo in the face of your statement of financial position. Saan ba makikita ulit yung asset? Di ba? Nasa statement of financial position or yung tinatawag natin na balance sheet. Di ba? Makikita nyo yung property, plant, and equipment usually at net amount na. So ano po yung net amount? Pag sinabi nating property, plant, and equipment net, ito po yung kanyang computation. Magkano yung costs ng ating property, plant, and equipment? Diba? So halimbawa, yung kaninang example ko, 50,000 yung cost, edi 50,000 yung cost natin. No? It includes the directly attributable costs. And then, di ba, every time na may entry tayo about accumulated depreciation, okay, so ito po ay ano natin, ina-accumulate natin. So yung total amount, okay, will be deducted from the cost. Kasi nga po, ang ating accumulated depreciation is considered as a contra account. Okay? At ang kinokontra niya is yung cost ng PPE or the property, plant, and equipment. So yung costs less the accumulated depreciation, then it is what we so called book value or net book value or carrying value. Pare-parehas lang po yan. No? That is referring to the amount of property, plant, and equipment net presented in your statement of financial position. And of course, class, kasama rin dito sa PPE yung ating land, di ba? Kasama din dyan yung land. Pero just like what I have mentioned to you a while ago, land is not subject to depreciation. So wala tayong i-deduct na accumulated depreciation para doon sa land po natin. Okay? So I hope that that is clear, no? So saan namin nakikita tong computation ng costless accumulated depreciation? So this is typically can be found in kung ipapaprepare ko sa inyo in module number 5 yung statement of financial position, pwede nyo makita ito doon sa face ng statement of financial position mismo. Or pag ang pina-present ko sa inyo is yung property, plant, and equipment net, ito pong computation na to ay makikita nyo naman doon sa notes to financial statement. Okay? So parang backup computation siya just to explain saan nanggaling yung property, plant, and equipment net po natin. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. By the way, before kong iwanan to, no, nakalimutan kong sabihin sa inyo, no, for our journal entry for depreciation, again, di ba, if you will recall our discussion of the introduction to adjusting entries needs to have at least one nominal and one real account. So alin ang nominal dito? So yes, you're correct. The depreciation expense, since it is an expense account, is considered as the nominal account or the temporary account. And then your accumulated depreciation, which is your contra asset account, will act as your real account or your permanent account. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know. So after knowing the journal entry, the presentation in the financial statement, our next naman is to show you lang, no, ano yung mga iba't ibang depreciation methods. Pero again, I will not discuss them all here. So ito po, no, we have the time-based depreciation method such as yung straight line na i-discuss natin dito. Some of the years, double declining, 150% declining balance. You have also the activity-based depreciation method, which is the units of output at saka depreciation based on machine hours. So by the way, if you want to know more about these other depreciation methods, you can check the description box on this particular video lecture now for my other video lectures. Okay, pero these video lectures are related already for higher accounting discussions. Okay, ang focus lang talaga natin dito in the fundamentals of accountancy, business, and management will be the straight line method. Pero again, if you want to watch it, no, hindi ko naman siya isasama sa exam, you can watch it to learn more about them, no, via the link that I will be providing in the description column. Okay? Sige, so again, pag may questions, please let me know. So dumako na tayo sa straight line method, which is the focus of our discussion in depreciation right now, para malaman natin kung magkano po ba natin i-entryhan yung debit depreciation expense and credit accumulated depreciation. So pag sinabi po nating straight line method, no, comparing it with the other methods that you have seen a while ago, okay, in this method, from the word itself, straight line, there should be an equal amount of the depreciable base allocated to each year of the asset's useful life. So ayun po, no, from the definition itself of the method, equal amount. yung ating depreciation per period. So pag nag-compute ka from, let's say, yearly yung inyong reporting, so year 1, year 2, year 3 hanggang matapos yung useful life, then supposed to be equal yung ating depreciation. But take note ha, magiging equal lang siya if the time of use on that particular year is equal din, no? Kasi kung mamaya I will be explaining that further sa ating example. Okay? Pero ayun, ang concept ng straight line is dapat equal per period yung ating depreciation expense. So hindi siya mahirap kasi once you computed it based on the formula, then you can get now the whole year and then you just proportionate it to the number of months na nagamit mo, then yun na po siya. Equal din siya per period. Okay? So, how do we compute for the depreciation expense dito sa straight line method? So, the computation is yung depreciable base natin. So, ano ulit formula ng depreciable base or depreciable costs? Diba? That is your what? Asset costs less residual value or scrap value or um, disposal value. Diba? So, yun yung depreciable cost or depreciable base is simply divided by the number of years in the asset's life to determine the annual depreciation. So, i-divide daw natin siya by the useful life. So, see, nakita nyo dito yung mga elements na kanina diniscuss natin. So, you have the depreciable base which includes the asset cost less residual value. Again, pag wala kayo nakitang residual value, scrap value, or salvage value, then the assumption is zero po itong residual value. Okay? Or walang value yan, no? And then you divide it with the useful life, most likely it will be given in the problem. Okay? At yung depreciation method na gagamitin lang natin would be using the straight line method. Okay? So yun po yung ating depreciation expense which will lead us to equal depreciation per year. Kasi yung useful life natin is naka-year yan typically. Sir, pwede bang naka-months? Kasi ang binigay is months. Pwede naman kung months yung binigay sa inyo. Pero not necessarily na i-convert mo na agad siya sa months kasi depende rin sa konteksto ng problem. Okay? Ito, kung year yung useful life mo, syempre, ang lalabas dyan, depreciation expense per year. Okay? Ngayon, kung gusto mo malaman yung per month, dahil binigyan ka ng 1 year depreciation, then you just simply divide it with 12 months para malaman mo yung monthly depreciation. Okay? Ayan. So, yan. Tinuturuan ko na kayo ng how to compute just in case na tanungin kayo sa problem ng monthly. Pag quarterly naman, of course, you just divide it by 4 kasi di ba we have 4 quarters in a year. Okay? Yung pinaka-typical talaga na binibigay na useful life ay years. Kaya pag nag-compute ka ng depreciation expense, it will be per year. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay? Sige, so to expound further itong gamit ng straight line method at saka application ng ating journal entry, then let me give you these examples. So let's start with example number 1. So ang requirements sa atin is computing yung depreciation expense, mag-compute din ng accumulated depreciation at saka yung book value for 2020 up to 2023 using the straight line method only. So let me read the problem. The 81 company purchased a fabricating equipment. So this is a property, plant, and equipment na binili natin on January 1, 2020, no? At a net cost of 230,000. So ito na. Yan na yung cost natin. Wala naman kayo iba nakitang directly attributable cost, di ba? Tapos, tatanungin niyo, sir, kailan ulit mag-start yung depreciation? Anong sabi kanina? Once it is available for use. Wala namang ibang date, di ba? So, January 1 lang yung nakalagay at the time of purchase. So, it means most likely that that is already the assumed to be na date when the equipment or the fabricating equipment is available for use. Okay, so magsisimula yung depreciation natin ng January 1 unless there are other data stated. Basahin natin. At the end of the 4-year useful life, so ito yung next element. We have the useful life na 4 years. the company estimates that the machine will be worth 30,000. So ito pong 30,000 na to, ito yung estimated na worth after 4 years. Anong tawag natin dito? You are correct. This is the salvage value or scrap value or residual value. Then the company's calendar year ends on December 31. So 1 year lang siya, or I mean every year lang siya nagre-report. Kaya yung depreciation natin, which is good for 1 year, is applicable as good for 1 year na rin talaga. Okay? So yan yung mga elements natin. Nalaman na natin yung asset costs. So itong 230,000, yung useful life is 4 years, yung ating salvage value which is 30,000, and we will just be using the straight line method. So ang unang step natin, computein muna natin yung depreciation expense since straight line or equal naman siya per year. So our depreciation expense is equal to the asset cost, which is 230,000, less the salvage value of 30,000. Ano nga ulit tawag dito sa numerator? The asset costs minus the residual value. You are correct. This is your asset base or depreciable base, or this is your depreciable costs. Diba? Magkano yung depreciable costs? 230,000 minus 30,000. So it is equal to 200,000. Okay? And then you divide it with the useful life na 4. Okay? Thus, the depreciation expense per year is 50,000. So ayan class ha, per year yan kasi yung units of measurement natin and the denominator was in years. Okay? And actually, wala tayong problema kasi good for 1 year naman talaga yung tinatanong from January up to December 31. Okay? If you want to know yung per month, edi ang gagawin mo lang, divide it with 12. Gaya na sinabi ko kanina kung gusto mong per month. Okay? So 50,000 in a year. Now, what will be our depreciation entry? Okay? So your entry, no? Actually, pare-parehas yan every year from January, from 2020, okay, up to 2020. Kailan yung huling taon? 2023. Okay? So ito yung magiging entry mo from 2020 up to 2023. Pare-parehas lang ng entry ha. You will be recording this every December 31 of the year. Okay? Kasi nga, di ba, after a year pa natin, adjusting entries are prepared at the end of the reporting period. So, your adjusting entry based on the amount computed. So, ito na po yan, no? So, debit depreciation expense, equipment. So, pwede po maglagay kayo nung kung anong uri siya ng property, plant, and equipment. Depende rin po kung ano yung binigay sa chart of accounts. Pero I've just used here no para mapakita sa inyo na ito po yung possible na title or pwedeng depreciation expense lang, 50,000. And credit your contra asset account, credit accumulated depreciation equipment no or pwedeng depreciation expense accumulated depreciation lang 50,000. Okay? So, again, yung description natin, you are allowed to put a computation description or you can put explanation, no? Words explanation. So, as mentioned to you before, no, pwedeng computation or description yung ating explanation. Okay? So, ayan. Please take note lang ha. Pagkasyahin nyo na lang sa isang line yung computation. Okay, wag nyo pong ilalagay yung ganito kasi may hirapan kayong maglagay. Okay? Mas madami kayong lines na magagamit. Okay? So that's your journal entry every December 31, 2020, 21, 22, 23. Kasi pare-parehas, we are using the straight line method. Okay. So we have answered already kung magkano yung depreciation expense per year, yung ating journal entry. Ngayon naman po, no, gusto kong ipakita sa inyo kung magkano yung accumulated depreciation at saka book value at the end of every year. So I have just prepared na lang a table. Okay? So ito po yung table for this 81 company. So again, yung cost natin is palagi pa rin na 230,000. By the way, itong pinapakita ko, ito yung ipipresent ninyo na PPE net. Di ba? Sa statement of financial position. Yung depreciation expense kasi, makikita nyo yan for sure in your income statement. Okay, i-discuss natin again sa Module 5 yan. Okay. So ayun, ito yung costs in 2020, December 31, 'di ba? Dahil this is the first year, ang kanyang accumulated depreciation pa lang is yung unang amount, no, na nasa entry ng December 31, 2020. Kaya 50,000. Okay? So 230 minus 50,000, then it would be equal to 180,000. So pag tinanong kita magkano yung book value on December 31, 2020, dahil tapos pa lang siya ng first year, your answer would be 180,000. Okay? Pagdating ng December 31, 2021, so nakapangalawang entry na tayo ng debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation. So yung cost pa rin is 230,000 at dahil pangalawang taon na ng ating depreciation, yung accumulated depreciation niya is nadagdagan na. Sir, bakit nadagdagan? Again, in 2020, nag-entry ka nito. Di ba? So nag-credit ka 50,000. Tapos in 2021, nag-entry ka ulit, December 31. So nag-credit ka, accumulated ulit. So nabanggit kanina that accumulated depreciation is the cumulative amount of depreciation expense. So from 50 last time, nadagdagan siya ng another 50,000 during 2021, kaya naging 100,000. Okay? And then of course, the cost less accumulated depreciation, ang natitira na lang na book value natin or net book value or carrying value of that fabricating equipment is 130,000. Okay? And then in 2022, December 31, mag-i-entry ka ulit nito, 'di ba? Kasi nagamit mo siya after 1 year. So 230 pa rin yung costs. Tapos dahil meron ka ulit entry na accumulated depreciation, so from 100,000 in 2021 plus 50,000 sa entry ng 2022, thus the total accumulated depreciation is already 150,000. Okay? And then 230 minus 150,000, then ang value na lang po na natitira from your property, plant, and equipment is 80,000. Okay? And lastly, in 2023, so ayan, no, huling entry mo na ng adjusting entry na may 50,000 accumulated depreciation. So yung accumulated mo from 150 in 2022, may dumagdag na entry in 2023 na 50,000, kaya naging 200,000 na. So yung 230,000 na costs minus 200,000 na accumulated depreciation, then your book value will now become 30,000 na lang. So itong 30,000 na to, this will now be equal doon sa salvage value natin kasi tapos na yung ating useful life na 4 years. Okay, sir, palagi po ba yon? Yes, dapat equal pag may residual value or salvage value doon sa book value na natitira after ng useful life. Sir, talaga ba na yung book value natin is pababa every year habang ginagamit natin? Yes, di ba? So ang halaga ng property, plant, and equipment as time goes by decreases because of the fact that we are using it. Diba? Yun yung basic reason why we are recording depreciation expense, because we are using it, and as time goes by, it will cost our property, plant, and equipment to decrease its value. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. So we have answered already all of the items in example number 1. Again, pag may mga questions kayo, just please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay, so that's for our example number 1. Good for 1 year yung ating depreciation. Okay, kaya medyo madali lang din, no? So for my last example, okay, this is similar as well to example 2. Pero ito, ang pinagkaiba lang niya is yung date kung kailan binili. Kanina January 1. Ngayon po, same, no? You are asked of the depreciation expense, accumulated depreciation, at saka yung book value pa rin for the years 2020 through 2023. Okay. So, the Gangnam Company purchased a fabricating equipment on April 1, 2020. So, ito yung pinagkaiba. Nabili siya ng April 1, 2020, and then at a net cost of 230,000. Ito pa rin yung costs. Then at the end of the 4-year useful life. So pag binilang mo yan, class, no, ang first year niyan, April 1, 2020, di ba? Up to Dali, sulat natin para masundan ninyo. April 1, 2020, okay, up to, of course, ang first year niyan is up to April 1, 21, 22, April 1, 2022 rin, di ba? Ilan na yan? 1 year, 2 years. Okay, kailan siya magti 3 years? 4, 1, 2022, 23. Okay, 3 years. Tapos, pang-apat na taon niya is magfo-fall until March na lang, di ba? Kasi end is March. March 31, 2024. Okay? Yun yung up to 4 years. So, unlike kanina, natapos na yung useful life ng asset ng December 31, 2023. Ngayon, extended din kasi we need to fulfill the 4 years useful life. And then again, at the end of the useful life, it has a worth of 30,000. So, yan yung ating salvage value. Okay, and the company year ends on December 31. Ha? Sir, year end December 31, April yung ating ano? So yes, okay lang yan, no? Walang problema. Ibig sabihin lang, magka-cut off tayo for 2020 from April lang up to December. Sa susunod na taon, good for 1 year lang din, di ba? Another year, 1 year, 1 year, hanggang maubos mo yung 4 years na useful life. Okay? So to show you, no, bago tayo mag-journal entry for the years. Okay, so computein ulit natin yung kabuuang depreciation expense. So your depreciation expense for a whole year is again 50,000 per year. So again, that came from your asset cost na 230,000 minus the salvage value na 30,000. So ang depreciable base is 200,000 all over 4 years. Okay? Then that would be 50,000 per year. Per year yan ha. Unfortunately, in 2020, hindi po yan good for 1 year kasi nagsimula lang tayo ng April. So pag nag-entry ka on December 31, 2020, hindi siya good for 1 year na 50,000. It will only be, pag binilang mo, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So meron ka lang 9 months. So ang gagawin natin is to proportionate lang natin, no? Yung 50,000 na good for 1 year, no, i-multiply lang natin siya ng 9 months kasi yun lang po ay from April 1 at the time na binili natin up to December 31, which is good for 9 months all over, good for 12, di ba? 12 kasi is good for 12 months for a year. So in 2020, ang ating depreciation expense lang po is 37,500 kasi nga uulitin ko po, this is only good for 9 months from the time na binili natin in April 1 up to December 31. So ang entry natin is debit depreciation expense equipment 37,500 and credit accumulated depreciation equipment 37,500. Okay, so mangyayari lang yan ha if it is less than 1 year. Okay? Sa susunod na taon, okay, 2021, 22, and 23, ano na siya, 'di ba? Pang isang taon rin siya, hindi naman natin ika-count na April siya binili. So in 2021, 22, and 23, you will have the same entry every December 31. Tatlong entry yan ha, pinagsama-sama ko lang siya kasi pare-parehas lang naman siya every year. Okay? So debit depreciation expense, equipment 50,000 since good for 1 year naman siya. And then credit accumulated depreciation equipment 50,000. Okay, again, that is good for 1 year. Okay? I hope that that is clear. And then, syempre, kung 9 months lang yung 2020, tapos 2021 is good for 12 months or 1 year, 2022 is 1 year, 23 is 1 year, kulang pa rin. Hindi pa natin na-fulfill yung 4 years. Kanina, in the timeline that I have shown you, di ba, umabot tayo ng March 31, 2024. So para ma-record mo yung pagkaubos ng asset, no, up to March 31, 2024, mag-accumulate tayo or mag-entry tayo on March 31, 2024 para ma-record na natin yung kulang ng asset. Okay? So that is 50,000 na good for 1 year. Eh dahil 'di ba from January 1, 2024 up to March 31, 2024, which is yung last day ng 4-year na period natin para sa property, plant, and equipment. So ilang buwan lang yon? January, February, March. So that's only good for 3 months. Over the 12 months period, kaya ang ating depreciation lang related to the fabricating equipment, okay, for 2024 is good for 3 months, kaya that is only 12,500. Okay? So debit depreciation expense 12,500 and credit accumulated depreciation 12,500. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Sir, kahit hindi pa po year-end, pwede na tayo mag-adjust sa March 31, 2024? Yes, no? Kasi ang reason naman why we are adjusting it there on March 31 only, not on December 31, it's because we have already fully used the asset, okay, as of that date. So clear po tayo? Kung nakikita ninyo, no, ang ano lang dito is inallocate natin yung excess, or I mean based on the months na nagamit siya. Pero still it's straight line kasi equal every period. Anong equal every period? Sir, 37 yung ano. Yes, equal siya every period. Parang gagalit ako sa screen ko, no? Pero ayun, good for 9 months kasi in 2020. Kaya magkaiba siya ng total. Good for 9 months eh. Etong huli is good for 3 months lang. Pero kung titignan mo siya monthly, if you try to divide everything in monthly, equal din siya every month. Okay? Yun nga lang, nagkataon lang talaga na magkaiba ng number of months yung 2020 at saka yung 2024, kaya magkaiba sila ng total values. Pero again, the concept of straight line is to make sure that equal every period yung ating depreciation expense. Okay? So that's for our depreciation expense. So I hope na nasagot natin ha. So sa 2020, it will be 37,500. 2021, 22, and 23 is 50,000 every year. And kung 24 related to the fabricating equipment, it's 12,500. Okay? And lastly, no, with regards to the book value, so let me show you the presentation of book value. So again, the formula is yung cost less accumulated depreciation. Pinakita ko lang dito sa gitna yung depreciation expense, which is related doon sa naging entries po natin kanina. Okay? So for 2020, you have 230,000 cost pa rin minus the accumulated depreciation in the first year, which is only 37,500 kasi good for 9 months lang, di ba? So ang book value mo at the end of 2020 is 192,500. Okay? Then after a year ulit, December 31, 2021, so 230,000 yung costs. Last year, 2020, may 37,500. I-add mo yung depreciation expense ng 2021, kaya naging 87,500 na yung accumulated depreciation natin. You deduct it from the costs, kaya ang book value natin on December 31, 2021 was 142,500. Okay? In 2022, same din, good for 1 year, 50,000 ang depreciation expense. Kaya dumagdag ng 50,000 yung accumulated depreciation, naging 137,500. Deducting that from the cost, ang book value na lang natin as of December 31, 2022 ay 92,500. Then in 2023, okay, pang good for 1 year ulit yan, nag-entry ka, may depreciation expense na 50,000, dumagdag yon sa accumulated depreciation, so naging 187,500 na lang. Okay, so ang book value na lang po after deducting the cost of 230,000 and the accumulated depreciation for 2023 na 187,500, so the book value will only be 42,500. Okay? Then after you fully depreciate the asset as of March 31, 2024, no, 230,000 pa rin yung cost. Ang depreciation expense na lang po is 12,500. So 187,500 last year, 2023, plus depreciation expense nung March 31 na 12,500. So the total accumulated depreciation na po was 200,000. So cost na 230 minus accumulated depreciation na 200,000, your book value at the end of the 4-year useful life on March 31, 2024 is 30,000. Okay? And the 30,000, as you have noticed, is similar as well doon sa ating salvage value. Okay? So I hope na clear na sundan po natin yung entries at the same time how to compute for the book values to be presented in your financial statements. Okay? So with that, no, I hope that if you do have questions, just please let me know on our respective chat boxes or you can comment below on this video lecture. So this is the end of our discussion. We will have more examples in our synchronous sessions. Okay? So with that, thank you very much. I hope that you have learned something. Okay, so I'll see you in our next video lectures, no, about adjusting entries pa rin po. Okay, so thank you very much. Kamsahamnida, kapan ka, sayonara. Have a great day. God bless everyone and stay safe.